Are you stuck in entrepreneurial purgatory? Here are the signs, and I have some bad news for you. There's only one way out. That's to start a business.
Bad news. You're going to make the bad news good for me. I know you are.
I'm going to try.
He's Joe Leach. This is Throw the Boss Out. This is our business podcast on the Minnesota Sports Podcast Network, known as Talk North. Check out all the shows at talknorth.com. Do us a favor. We appreciate our listeners. We really appreciate it if you download the episodes. It helps our business as we deal with national advertisers. They value downloads over listens. So help us out if you can. And check out the rest of the network that includes Cheryl Reeve, Michael Russo, Roy Smalley, John Krasinski, all the best sports voices in town, and the best business voice in town, Joe Leach.
So you forgot something. See, you said who I was, but you didn't say that this is Throw the Boss Out with Joe Leach and Jim Souhan, or as Suri likes to call you, Jim Souhan.
Siri and I do not have a good relationship.
Well, so I'm wondering, can you change how Siri pronounces things? I mean, I know you can change how she recognizes things, but can you change her dialect, you know?
You know what? I hope not, because I don't ever want to get to a point where robots or virtual personalities actually are too realistic. I like it that we are reminded constantly how fallible they are.
Yeah, that's going to be done in a matter of days, probably not years. So that wish is not going to come true. Sorry, but yeah, when
I'm old enough that I can hope that I can get to the end of my life before the robots take over.
I just don't like her calling you Souhan because it just has this mental image in my head that
Siri's a jerk.
Siri is she's a little
bossy.
She's kind of sarcastic at times.
Yeah.
Too. So what is this entrepreneurial purgatory thing? Have we talked about this or not?
I think we've touched on it. I don't think you've ever come out and called it Entrepreneurial Purgatory, which is a great phrase and the name of my next band.
First of all, the people that end up with a business naturally, and I mean either through family or like, I think in your case where something just presented itself and you didn't have to go through the agony of first saying, I want to start a business, and then had to go through this purgatory. You didn't go through purgatory. You went right from employment to entrepreneurial heaven, basically.
And it is heaven. I love doing these shows.
I got to qualify that. I suppose if somebody gets a business naturally, if they don't like business, then it would be entrepreneurial hell.
Right.
Right? So it depends on what you want. Thus, the person that really wants it, when they get there, they move from just regular old earth life to entrepreneurial purgatory, then on to entrepreneurial heaven, hopefully. So yeah, this is that waiting period. This is the point at which the spark hits you that you would like to own a business someday. And you do a little bit of research and you get excited, and then the dream, right? There's this dream. You see yourself calling the shots. You see yourself coming up with great creative ideas. You see the financial freedom or the financial payoff for your work. You, again, get to call the shots, right? And when someone gets a whiff of that, and there's even the slightest possibility that could be them, they are done forever because it never goes away. I've never met anybody that got the bug that it just went away at some point.
Really?
It was always hanging in there. And the only way out is to basically start a business. And I say this all the time, and I mean it. Don't get bogged down in what other people think an entrepreneur is or does or has qualifications to do with. One of the very first shows we did, we read the 2 different lists of the 10 most important things that entrepreneurial needs from a skill set, or I don't remember what it was because it turned out to be so invalid. You know, I talked to a lot of people who are successful entrepreneurs and, this one's true, but this one's not. And the next person say, that one's true, but this one's not. So the difference is what, Jim, we say it all the time, what's the difference between someone who's entrepreneur and someone who's not?
I can't remember the answer.
The person who just simply starts the business.
Okay.
It's just that simple. So you gotta move forward. Check with your attorney and your I can't take legal responsibility for this whole thing. But I always say too, it is a lot like a job. You might start a job that you don't like and you change jobs. You might start a business that doesn't work out and you just move on to something else. It's why you have to be prudent about how you do things. You just have to go slow, be responsible, but don't be afraid to take that risk. I don't think you'll ever regret it if you move forward. So those of you people who are flailing about in entrepreneurial purgatory, I'm telling you, it's worth it to get to the other side. So I was thinking about, I had something happen this week that reminded me that there's kind of another phase, or there's another characteristic that could happen. So obviously we have people that start businesses. Let me back up. Let's talk about the people that enter entrepreneurial purgatory, right? So there's the people that enter it and stay there forever. There's the people that get there and eventually start a business. And then there's another person that I don't really have a name for it. I think I have to come up with a name for it, maybe right here on the show. Let me think. How can we combine entrepreneur and entrepreneur and what was the word I was thinking?
I'll tell you what, you take a second to sort it through, and I'll just tell people, if you'd like to advertise on this show or on the network, we generate a huge number of social media impressions. We have, solid listenership, tons of social media followers. You can email me at jsouhan47@gmail.com.
Entretunist.
Entretunist.
Let's put that down. I can't say it. Took me how many years to say entrepreneur, and now I have to say entretunist.
Entretunist.
What do you think that is?
Entretunist. Is that an optimist who is in...
No.
Okay.
It's based on...
an opportunist?
Yeah, it's based on that. So now that you know that part of it, let's, Mr. Wordsmith, see if you can figure this out.
Entretunist. So an entrepreneur...
It's really an awkward word, but we're going to stick with it.
Yeah. Entrepreneur who seizes opportunities.
Okay. But we would call that an entrepreneur.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of redundant. Okay, so help me out.
Maybe my word's not the right word. Here's what it is, and this happens a lot. I have people approach me on a regular basis, and I would have to go back and say, made the error of moving forward with people like this, and it's never worked out very good. An entretunist is the person that really wants to have their own business, but has absolutely no stomach for the hard work, the risk, any of that, right? They're not willing to sacrifice, right? But it's somebody who's got maybe a lot of knowledge in an industry. Typically, it's somebody who's been at a lot of different places. It's the person that is usually already out of work, between jobs, between opportunities, right? That looks at a business and seeks out things that are missing in that business that person feels their skills can fulfill. Now, typically, that's probably a good way to go about just about anything. But with the caveat that there are people out there who, again, they don't really want to do the work. They just want all the benefits, right? So this is somebody who is in entrepreneurial purgatory, but they're trying to get out by cheating. They're trying to get out the easy way.
Literally cheating or shortcut cheating?
Let's say shortcut cheating.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not cheating like robbing people of money or
fraud,
anything like that.
just
Not at all.
trying to cut corners.
Thank you for clarifying.
Just want to make sure.
So I don't have a lawsuit on my hands here. I've just offended a whole massive group of people who could come at me, and I might have picket signs outside of my business, and
it's never going to happen.
Entretunists.
Never going to happen.
Entretunists unite against throw the boss out. He's calling us bad names. So this person wants all of the benefits. So they go to a different business who may or may not really need their services, but they convince themselves that they need your services. Like, I'm really good at this, and I'm looking at your store, and I'm thinking, you don't do that very well, so I can help you with that. They look at the other people that are in the organization, and they say, oh, I could be way more help to you than, with the staff you have is, really not adequate for the task at hand. And they will approach a business person. Again, this has happened to me a number of times. It happened recently. And they say, hey, I'd like to talk about, how we could work together. They never say, I'm looking for, to be part of your team. It's always they approach with this idea that I can help you get, better. And oftentimes when they approach a business, they're very good at saying, hey, here's my background, here's what I've done. And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you're saying, those are valuable skills. And you might even think to yourself, that could kind of come in handy and that could work, and this might be a good thing. So you get on the path and it's a little bit further. It almost always ends up in this, though. You say, all right, so if we were to somehow work together, how do you see that, what kind of a salary would you require for that? And the answer is usually something like, well, in my previous 3 jobs, I made $80,000 a year, but because this is a good opportunity and I see the growth potential in it, I would be willing to start for $72,000, right? Or maybe they're really generous and they say I would start for $60,000. And then you can just pay me as I accomplish all of these fantastic things, for your company. But in return for the salary concession, I would want this cushy schedule, and of course I need control over everything. I need to have I want the hiring and firing. I love that one. I need to be able to hire and fire. That always is a warning flag to me. That if somebody wants to be the hiring and firing person, then that's always a red flag when they approach the company. But I want control. I want no responsibility, and I just want. And I say, oh, you want to be a consultant?
Don't we all want to be consultants?
Yes. I mean, what a better deal?
Oh my God.
You go to. I'm not. And you know what? Let's be careful. I have worked with some good consultants. So
I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying it's a great job if you can make it work.
But no job more than any other requires you to really be good at it to sustain a business. Because the first time you go and consult with somebody and that turns out to not work, you're done. You're never going to get repeat business. You're not going to get. But this is what people are looking for. But they want to be a consultant with a consistent salary, benefits, all these kind of things. Now, I'm not just cutting people that think like that down. And I would say that there are probably a lot of entrepreneurs that go forward with situations like that, because oftentimes you're a small business, an expert comes who has abilities, skills, and experience that you don't have. You think this is great. But I'm saying the warning signs are just simply that. When the person is saying, I'll give a concession on my salary, but I want this in return. It's a non-starter at that point. That's not a team player. And maybe they don't have to be a team player. Maybe they have 3 other opportunities lined up, although they probably don't because they would tell you that. And that has never happened in the situations that I've had with people like that. But that is a very common thing to happen. And if that's you, right, and you're offended right now, I'm just saying, take my word. Even if you land a gig like that, it's not going to last very long. And you're not going to get along with the person who actually owns the business very good, because you're going to have competing interests. And it's not going to be good for either one of you. I'm saying to you, as that person who wants to be the entrepreneur for somebody else, right, a hired out entrepreneur, just start a business. You won't be sorry. It'll be worth it. Take the risk. Do it. It's my words of encouragement. So now we're dealing with the person that's actually in entrepreneurial purgatory, right? The person that really wants to do it, maybe doesn't have the financial wherewithal to do it the way they would think they would do it. So there's a key. Or maybe they don't feel like they might say, well, I'm not a risk taker. I really want to do this, but I'm not a risk taker. You aren't today, right? But one thing that'll change that is just take the step and do it. Keep working at it, right? And there are times, now I'm talking to the entrepreneur, now I'm talking to the entrepreneurial purgatorialist. I don't know why can I say
I like that. That's
Can
good.
I say that?
That was good.
So I'm talking to the person that's suffering right now, right? You're suffering in purgatory. You're not knowing whether you're going to get, up to the next level or anything. I say this: stay with it. Don't get upset with yourself. When we started the show, I did a post and was asking people their opinion of this whole thing, and somebody said, I keep coming up with these ideas, and then I get discouraged because, it doesn't work out, and you just got to remember it's a numbers game. I think did we do the analogy with dating, right?
Yes.
Right. So it's like
that's right on.
The chances are that every gal you ask out when you're at the dance, the chances are most of them are not going to say yes. When you're playing baseball, for example, every time you get up to hit, you got to look at business the same way, and you just have to stick with it. The phrase that I love that people use, whether it's for a personal situation or I can certainly use it for this whole entrepreneurial purgatory thing, is knee walking on broken glass, right? It's going to be painful, and you're stuck because once you see that dream, there is no going back. You've seen Oz, right? You're going to get by all the flying monkeys, and you're going to get by all this. You will if you keep down.
That movie scared the hell out of me.
The yellow brick road. For its time, it was creepy.
We used to go to my grandmother's house in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey, in her creepy old house, and watch that. And I was a little kid, and the flying monkeys made me wet myself.
The witch.
And the witches were terrible too, but the flying monkeys really got me.
Okay, Freddy Krueger or the witch from Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I thought
it's a toss-up.
I thought the witches were scarier. Maybe, and it's because I was very young when I first experienced the witches. Freddy was creepy, but it was almost cartoonish creepy. The witches I could actually see like boiling me.
Yes. And you could actually see that person show up around the corner sometime, right? Whereas Freddy, you're right. You're just like, well, I kind of know this is just a... But yeah, she was convincing.
Yes. But the flying monkeys, they could just fly. You could be anywhere. They just come out of nowhere.
What happened to the witch with the red shoes, like the house fell on her? Why did she disintegrate? I never got that part of it.
I'm not sure about that.
I mean, they never really explained that. Maybe if somebody's out there, they can explain what the deal was. It was just, must be just for effect. I'm not really sure. But
speaking of tangents.
And the witch was in entrepreneurial purgatory. She was an entrepreneurial purgatorist. Who knows what's there? But I think the discouragement when you're in that stage is the thing that holds you back the most. And I wish I could give you some specific pointers. Maybe we can here. I wish this is where if we had somebody who was in entrepreneurial purgatory. You're not, I'm not, but let's just say we had somebody sitting here that was in entrepreneurial purgatory. What kind of questions do you think they would ask us? I'm not really sure. Like, how do you get out? Well, the answer is just start a business.
Well, I mean, the one question I would ask is, you say don't get discouraged, keep pushing, and that generally is good advice. But how do you know when it really is time to say, okay, this ain't working, I got to do something else?
Before you start a business or after you've started a business?
How about after you start? Let's say you started the business, you think you have a good idea, you get knee deep into it, and then you go, crap, this ain't going to work.
Well, I'm a terrible person to ask the question of, because I never give up.
Well, then let me ask you this: are there times when somebody should give up?
I take that back. I had a trucking company.
Mm-hmm.
I let that go, but it was so obvious. I couldn't get it. It wasn't anything like I thought it was going to be. I had made so many miscalculations about who would use the service, who I would employ to run the service, just made all kinds of stuff. So I just couldn't get any business. There was no dollars there. So there's one sign. If there's no dollars there,
that would be a big sign.
Then you have to do that. If there's income, I say there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. You just keep shifting. Okay, great. Great question, by the way. This is getting even better. So when do you get out? 1, there's no money, right? So there's no income. 2, there's no fun, right? Now, let's qualify that. It's not going to be fun all the time.
Right.
It's going to be stressful. You're going to have anxiety, right? But when that outweighs the freedom and the excitement and the creative satisfaction, then number 2, that's when you get out. No fun. What else would there be? That's about it. Besides those 2 things, like,
keep going.
because you can just turn one business completely into something else. That's happened many, many times before. You think, well, my business is delivering this sort of thing, or my business is to sell this kind of thing. People all the time start with a particular product and shift into a completely different thing that's maybe related, and it gets moving. I say you be tenacious. Be careful not to. You have to be responsible for the people that are in on it with you, right? So, like, you have to be responsible for the people that you hire. You have to be responsible to the people that you owe money. You got to be responsible to those people. So that is a number. That's a very high. That's very high on the list of things that you need to do. That would be number 3. If you can't fulfill your obligations, other than just financial, again, we've said there's no income, but let's just say there's not enough income to cover the obligations, then the first thing you do is alleviate the obligations if you can, right? At least stop the bleeding,
right,
so to speak. Don't leave anybody out. I mean, I'm a big believer in your word, handshake deals, things like that. But certainly there's a tipping point. So that would be a reason to get out. I don't know. There's way fewer reasons to get out than there is to stay in my opinion.
Interesting.
I think you just got to keep moving and shaking. So, I would like to ask people to give us some more ideas about business shows. I have probably 5 or 6 that can easily be turned into shows for the future, and I don't ever see us running out. But the one thing that does drive me a little bit crazy is we're new, so we don't have a lot of activity on the social media, and so we don't get a lot of questions. I'd really like to ask anybody that's out there, just go on the Throw the Boss Out Twitter, or Throw the Boss Out Facebook, Throw the Boss Out Instagram. I just said throw the boss out. Did you hear that? Let's throw the boss out. Let's just throw that boss out and just get rid of them right now, and let's just have a really good life. So go to any of our social media and just throw out some ideas about things that particularly having to do with business, whether it's be a small local business, whether it be a bigger business, anything that you think might be a good topic. And I promise, if I don't know about it, if I'm not familiar with it, I will do some research, and I'll come to the show with as prepared as I possibly can to get some good stuff. And
if you prefer email, you can email me questions at jsouhan47@gmail.com, and then I'll always have them right in front of me when we do the shows.
You can also say, I don't have a question, but I'd like to advertise on the show.
You can say that too.
Yeah, that's 100% acceptable.
Absolutely.
Without any questions. So there we go. That's what we're talking about is Entrepreneurial Purgatory. Hope it's been helpful. I don't know, those people out there that are stuck, I hope we've been encouraging here and helped them out a little bit.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is that, I know, as for those who might just be starting to listen to the program, what I said a lot on our early shows is, hey, I know nothing about business. I started a business not knowing anything about business, and I always feel like I'm in entrepreneurial purgatory. I don't know that I am, but I feel that way because I want more, I want faster, I want to expand, I second guess every decision I make. So I feel like that, for me, as purgatory, is not ever having certainty.
No, you're just an entrepreneur. That's what we all go through.
Okay.
That never ends, by the way, either. But there's the satisfaction of actually having done something and having a enterprise. That's a good word. Having an enterprise, which has been started, which is a machine. It's a maybe machine's a bad word. No, it is. It's an object. Your business is something that generates money. I mean, that's what it's all about. And in the meantime, it generates satisfaction and, like I said, creative flow and all those kind of things. So for the purposes of this show and this topic, you are not in entrepreneurial purgatory. You've made the crossover. You've crossed over to the other side, Jim.
And that almost sounds like a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing.